Take your hands off my daughter. I pay you to clean, not to raise her." Gregory Thompson's voice cut through the kitchen like a shard of glass. The caterers froze in place, the head chef pausing with a ladle suspended in mid-air. 5-year-old Victoria flinched, her small shoulders hunching in fear. Maya took a deep, steadying breath, a damp cleaning cloth still clutched in her hand. She was 22 years old, dressed in a simple navy blue uniform, and had been kneeling to tie the little girl's shoelace. "I'm sorry, sir," she said softly. She almost tripped. "I need you to be invisible, please," Gregory finished, not even bothering to look at her. "I'm having lunch with investors today. I can't afford any surprises." Dorothy, the head housekeeper, shot Maya a malicious smirk from across the room, a look that said, "Learn your place." Maya wrung the cloth out over her bucket. "Invisible," she repeated in her mind, like someone tucking a smooth, hard stone into a pocket. The Greenwich, Connecticut mansion gleamed under the afternoon sun. Crystal glasses sparkled, the air was scented with jasmine from the gardens, and an infinity pool stretched out towards the manicured lawn. The concert grand piano in the living room had remained shut since the death of Gregory's wife, Isabella, 8 months prior. 8-year-old Luke walked through the living room with the rigid posture of a little soldier. "Good morning, Luke," Maya had tried earlier. He'd raised a hand in a vague gesture, his eyes fixed straight ahead. Invisible, Gregory, 45, and the owner of a sprawling construction and restaurant empire, checked his expensive watch as if time itself were an employee he could command. He had his reasons for being harsh. Months ago, a nanny with a stellar resume had vanished with the family's wedding rings after leaving a crying Victoria alone to take a phone call. Another, a scattered young woman, had left a pot of soup boiling on the stove. Luke had almost been badly burned. "I'll never trust anyone again," he'd repeated to his lawyer. He wasn't a villain without a cause. He was a wounded man trying to control a world that had spun out of his control. Maya finished her work in the pantry and moved back into the main kitchen. The sink was piled high with elegant cookware brought in for the luncheon. Fernando, the sous chef, barked at her, "Don't touch the platters, girl. You break one and, well, you know." She nodded, keeping her distance. She'd been terrified of deep water ever since the hurricane that had flooded her Red Hook neighborhood years ago. Sirens wailing, water rising to her waist, her younger sister's face turning blue for a few terrifying seconds. The memory would surge back, whole and suffocating, whenever water ran too fast. The pool. She didn't even think about it. She typically skirted the edge of the terrace with a wide berth, careful not to draw any attention. The first turning point came while she was vacuuming the living room. Tucked away on the side of the grand piano, Maya found a recipe book handwritten in a delicate looping script, "Isabella's Sweets and Cakes." Beside it was a framed photograph of the family of 4, their faces smudged with flour, their smiles wide and genuine. Maya turned the pages as if touching a holy relic. Fudge, carrot cake, gingerbread. She mentally noted the simple ingredients. There was no mention of pâte à choux or 70% ganache, just comforting, homemade things. During the children's afternoon snack time, Luke pushed his plate away. Victoria was just tearing her bread into tiny pieces. "He's not hungry right now," Gregory said automatically from the doorway. Maya, already invisible in a corner of the room, commented quietly without making eye contact, "In my neighborhood we used to make dinosaur toast. The slowest one to eat the first piece had to roar." Victoria giggled, a shy, tentative sound. "What's a roar sound like?" Maya looked up. "Grrr!" The little girl bared her teeth in a tiny imitation. Maya winked. "But it only counts if you take a real bite first." Victoria took a bite. Luke tried and failed to hide a smile. It was a small victory. Dorothy saw the exchange and cleared her throat loudly. "You're here to clean, not to invent games." Maya collected the plates, swallowing the retort that rose in her throat. Mid-morning, Gregory strode through the kitchen. He saw the table discreetly set with 2 small cups and a bowl of banana mashed with cocoa powder. "Who authorized this?" Dorothy pointed. "The cleaner. She's always coming up with something." Maya spoke up. "It was just an idea. They weren't eating much." "We already discussed you being invisible, didn't we?" Gregory said, his voice cold. "And you are not to touch my children. This is the last time." The second turning point arrived in the quiet of the afternoon. From her own bag, Maya took out eggs, flour and sugar she'd bought with her own money. A simple carrot cake from Isabella's recipe. Victoria padded into the kitchen silently. "What are you doing?" "It's a secret," Maya smiled, "but I need a helper who knows how to roar." The little girl's eyes lit up. "What about me?" Luke appeared in the doorway, trying to sound indifferent. "Only if you're a helper who can sift flour without sneezing half of it onto the floor," Maya challenged. "I doubt it." Luke grabbed the sifter. Within 10 minutes there was flour in their hair, chocolate on their noses, and quiet laughter, the kind of laughter that's afraid of being overheard. The third turning point, Gregory walked in suddenly. He saw the three of them with messy hands. "Stop!" His voice was firm. "The kitchen is not a playground. Dorothy, take the children. And you," he pointed a finger at Maya, "one more time, and you're out on the street." Victoria clutched at her apron. "Daddy, she's making it like Mommy used to." Gregory's face hardened. "That's enough." Luke backed away, his jaw tight. The humiliation was beginning to take on a familiar shape. On Saturday, Gregory was hosting the investors for lunch in the garden. Dorothy had transformed the house into a stage. "Maya, no wandering near the pool. You stay in the back." The young woman nodded. She thought of the hotel blue water, the hum of the filter. Her stomach churned. "No problem. I wasn't planning on it anyway." The fourth turning point. Just before lunch, Gregory's expensive watch vanished from the sideboard. Dorothy raised the alarm. "Lock the doors. We need to search everything." Maya, pale, leaned against her cleaning cart. "Let's start there," Dorothy commanded. When they opened the cart's supply drawer, the watch was sitting right on top of a stack of clean cloths. Silence descended. All eyes turned to Maya. Gregory's voice was ice. "I should have listened to my instincts." She blinked, stunned. I didn't touch that." Dorothy crossed her arms. "I told you this habit of getting involved would end badly." The chef whispered to a waiter. The rumor spread like spilled wine. The ultimate humiliation. In front of his guests, Gregory said curtly, "You'll leave after the party. We'll arrange for your severance." Blood pounded in Maya's ears. She wanted to scream, but then she saw Luke and Victoria watching from a distance, their faces tight like terrified little birds. She swallowed once again. The fifth turning point. Luke took 2 hesitant steps forward. "Dad!" Dorothy cut him off. "Not now, sweetie." Maya, very quietly, thought of her mother saying, "The truth stands on its own." She picked up her bucket and stood. As she rounded a corner, Victoria grabbed her hand. "I believe you," the little girl whispered. Maya managed a crooked smile. "Thank you, Princess." The lunch went on. Toasts were made, loud laughter echoed, and the conversation turned to ROI. The sun beat down, reflecting blindingly off the azure pool. The children were playing with a temporary nanny on the terrace. Maya, her back to the party, was washing glasses in a corner of the pantry, far from the water. She felt a shiver, a premonition that sometimes saved you, and sometimes just hurt you. Then she heard a piercing scream. "Victoria!" followed by a heavy splash. The sixth turning point. Victoria had slipped on a wet ball and fallen into the deep end. The nanny froze, paralyzed, her hands clapped over her mouth. Luke shrieked, "She can't swim!" Gregory shot up from his chair so fast he knocked over a glass of wine. He ran, but his feet tangled in a damp rug, and he stumbled. Dorothy was yelling, "Help!" but no one was actually moving. The water was a mirror, broken only by a frantic bubbling, the inevitable climax. Maya dropped the cloth. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The image of the flood came back whole. Her sister underwater. The cold rush. The noise. Her body screamed at her to run away, but her feet moved on their own. "Breathe and go," she whispered to herself as she sprinted across the lawn. Kicking off her shoes as she ran, she vaulted over a low retaining wall and jumped without a second thought. The water closed over her head. For a split second, panic seized her. No, she forced her stinging eyes open and saw the blue of Victoria's dress sinking. She was a poor swimmer, but she pushed forward. She grabbed the girl's arm, turning her onto her back, just like she'd learned in a first aid course at the local clinic. Short, choppy strokes. Her arms trembled, but her body remembered. She pulled the little girl onto the edge of the pool. "A towel, a blanket," she yelled to no one and everyone. 2 waiters appeared with linen napkins. Gregory knelt, desperate. "Victoria." Maya turned the child onto her side, gave 2 sharp slaps between her shoulder blades, and checked for breathing. "She's not breathing," she said flatly. "Call 911. And she began compressions. 30 small, firm pushes. 2 breaths. Again. Gregory's drenched watch dripped in the sun. The entire garden held its breath. "Come on, sweetie," Maya whispered, not realizing she was speaking aloud. "Come back." 2 more cycles. A trickle of water and chocolate came from the little girl's mouth. A sob. Another one. A wail. Victoria gripped Maya's arm with surprising strength. Life returned like a slap in the face. The 7th turning point. The garden erupted in gasps, hands flying to faces, choked back tears. A siren grew closer. Maya was shaking from head to toe, a volatile mix of fear and relief, but her voice remained practical. "A blanket. Keep her warm. Don't give her anything to drink." Gregory looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. "Thank you," he managed, his voice a thread. "The paramedics arrived and examined Victoria. She's stable, but we're taking her to the hospital for observation." Maya backed away, suddenly aware of all the eyes on her. Dorothy, as white as a napkin, couldn't stop blinking. The 8th turning point. As the ambulance pulled away with Gregory and Victoria inside, a security guard ran up with a phone. "Sir, the cameras." On the screen, Dorothy could be seen opening the drawer of the cleaning cart, glancing around, and quickly placing something inside. The recording ended. The silence that followed was different. Luke lifted his chin. "I saw her by the cart. I tried to tell you, but—" His voice broke. Dorothy burst into tears. I was scared. I thought Maya was taking my place with the children. I've seen people like that before, climbing over you. She stopped, swallowing hard. "I'm sorry. It's unforgivable, but I was wrong. There was no pretense. It was a raw, unpolished apology." The 9th turning point. 2 hours later at the hospital, the pediatrician confirmed it. She was out of danger. Gregory rested his forehead against the glass of the pediatric ICU for a few long minutes, then went to the waiting room. Maya was sitting in a corner, her hair still damp, her uniform clinging to her, her shoes still dripping onto the linoleum. She was trying to hide her trembling hands. Luke was asleep with his head in her lap. "I didn't realize I was afraid of the water," Gregory said quietly. "I am," Maya answered, "since the hurricane in Red Hook when I was a kid. But Victoria needed me." He nodded. The most important sentence came out unadorned. "You saved my daughter. I just did what had to be done." The 10th turning point. Gregory took a deep breath. "I was unfair to you. I was projecting because of what happened before. I humiliated you, and I let you be accused of something you didn't do." He paused. "Forgive me." Maya looked down. "I don't remember any of it, sir. Just please don't ask me to be invisible again when a child is in front of me." He almost laughed, a weary, broken sound. "Never again." He held out his hand, all formality gone. "Stay. Not as someone who cleans and disappears. As someone who helps me guide these children. I'm going to need help." Maya thought of her overdue electric bill, of her mother, of her sister. She thought of Victoria clinging to her neck like a life raft. "I'll stay, but on my terms. Cooking with the kids means an apron and supervision, and you're going to have to learn how to sift flour without creating a dust storm." Gregory gave an almost childlike, "Okay, it's a deal." Back at the mansion, Dorothy asked to speak, not in private, in front of the staff. "Maya, I'm sorry, I was afraid. I thought only people with titles got to give orders. You showed me that's not true. Stealing is wrong, no matter who does it." Maya nodded. "Thank you for looking me in the eye when you said that." And she hugged the older woman for just 2 seconds, a small gesture, but one that could break thick ice. The investors, who had witnessed everything, were leaving in respectful silence. One of them shook Gregory's hand. "I do business with a man who knows how to take care of his people." For the first time in months, Gregory answered without a mask. "I'm learning how to again." In the following weeks, the house found a new rhythm. Maya established small routines filled with humor. Dinosaur toast, the mysteriously disappearing fudge. Luke would eat one out of every 3 and feign innocence. And Mommy Isabella's story night on Sundays, with her picture on the table. There were no grand speeches. There was a cheesecake that didn't set right, laughter over spilled milk, and the piano being opened on Wednesdays. Gregory started picking the kids up from school twice a week, his phone off and in his pocket. He learned to sift flour without raising a storm. In return, Maya agreed to sit on the edge of the pool with her feet in the water, breathing deeply. One day, Victoria rested her head on Maya's shoulder. "If you want, I can hold your hand when the water gets scary." Maya squeezed back. "You've got a deal." Part 2. Gregory changed how he hired people at his companies, adding interview questions about character, not just numbers. He launched a training program for domestic help, including a first aid course in partnership with a local clinic. "Heroes aren't born in boardrooms," he'd say. Just when everything seemed to be settling, life delivered another twist. At Victoria's 8th birthday party, Maya avoided making speeches. She simply lit the candles on the carrot cake from Mom. As she blew them out, the little girl closed her eyes. "Thank you for having 2 mommies in one heart," she said simply. No one explained it. No one had to. But that was only the beginning. On the 1st of March, as the New York winter slowly gave way to a fragile spring, a woman in a cashmere coat strode into the Thompson home. Catherine Miller, 40, owner of a prestigious art gallery in Soho, had been an old friend of Isabella's and a prospective candidate to be Gregory's second wife. "Gregory, darling," her voice was like honey poured on glass, "I've been thinking about you and the children. This house needs a woman's touch. A real one. She glanced at Maya, who was wiping down a mirror in the foyer. And perhaps fewer temporary solutions. Maya felt a sting. Catherine had a straight-backed posture, flawless makeup, and a way of speaking that sounded like a command wrapped in silk. Temporary solutions, she repeated silently. Not long ago she'd been invisible. Now she was temporary. "Hi, Aunt Catherine," Luke said as he walked into the living room, his enthusiasm clearly forced. Victoria hid behind Maya. "Why does Auntie smell like a pharmacy?" she whispered. Catherine overheard and laughed, a brittle, artificial sound. "That's French perfume, sweetheart. You'll understand when you're older." Gregory looked torn. Catherine was intelligent, cultured, from his world. She and Isabella had shared years of friendship. Logically, it made sense. Emotionally, something felt off. "Why don't we sit down, have a chat?" he offered. Maya discreetly tried to retreat, but Catherine stopped her with a gesture. "Stay. This concerns you too." Her voice was laced with false sweetness. "Gregory, I think the children need stability. A real mother figure, not," she searched for the word, "a helper who oversteps her bounds." The first blow was subtle, but it landed perfectly. Maya felt a flush creep up her neck. "Excuse me, perhaps I should leave you." "No," Gregory interrupted. "Maya is part of this family." Catherine smiled, a frosty, polished expression. "Of course, but it's important for everyone to know their place, isn't it?" Then something happened that changed the dynamic. Victoria ran into the living room holding a plastic cup filled with water. "Aunt Catherine, I made you a drink." Floating in the cup were rose petals from the garden, mint leaves, and 2 pieces of fudge. Mommy Isabella said that when someone is sad, something sweet helps. Catherine accepted the cup with visible reluctance. "That's charming, darling." But she didn't drink it. Maya discreetly retrieved a real glass from a cabinet and poured Victoria's concoction into it. "Flowers from the garden are beautiful, but it's better just to look at them," she said gently. "How about some carrot juice with a little honey instead?" Victoria clapped her hands. Catherine watched the exchange with growing irritation. "I see you have everything under control," she commented coolly. "But don't you think the children should be taught to respect their guests?" "Respect is also not drinking something that might make you sick," Maya replied calmly. Victoria wanted to be kind. I helped her be kind and safe at the same time. Catherine's lips tightened into a thin line. Maya had won the first round, but the war was just beginning. In the following days, Catherine became a regular visitor. She brought expensive toys that the children politely placed on a shelf and never touched. She proposed lessons in etiquette, French, and violin. "In my circle, children their age already speak 3 languages," she'd say to Gregory. "Yours are natural, but they need some polishing." Maya listened from the kitchen, chopping carrots for dinner. Natural sounded a lot like uncivilized. Luke came in quietly. "She doesn't like our games," he whispered. "Yesterday she said baking cakes is a waste of time. That's what bakeries are for." "And what do you think?" Maya asked. "I think Aunt Catherine has never eaten a cake she made with her own hands." Luke shrugged. "And I think she doesn't know what a cake made with love tastes like." Maya smiled. "Well, maybe we should show her." That Saturday, while Catherine sat in the living room with Gregory, planning the reorganization of their family life, quiet laughter drifted from the kitchen. Maya and the children were making gingerbread cookies shaped like stars. Luke was in charge of the icing, and Victoria was decorating with her own unique flair. Some stars looked like sunflowers, others like clouds. "What is all that noise?" Catherine stood up, annoyed. In the kitchen, she found the 3 of them smudged with flour, concentrating on their creations. "This is unhygienic," she sputtered. "Gregory, the children should be learning about order, not making a mess." "But this is order," Victoria protested. "My star has a nose like Maya, see?" She held up a cookie decorated with colorful icing. "And this one has a nose like Daddy." Gregory came closer and saw a microcosm of happiness. Children focused on creating, Maya patiently guiding their hands, the scent of cinnamon mingling with the warmth of the house. It was exactly what he remembered from his time with Isabella. "Catherine," he said gently, "this is beautiful." This is exactly what childhood should be. The first assault had been repelled, but Catherine had no intention of giving up. "Of course, darling," she replied with a practiced smile, "but I've been looking into the top British nannies, girls from Cambridge, Oxford. The children need professional care, not—" She glanced meaningfully at Maya. "Amateur experiments." Maya froze, her hands hovering over the icing. The word amateur stung like a needle. Luke looked up. "What does professional mean?" "It means education, experience, and knowledge of child development," Catherine listed off. "The person responsible for you should have degrees, references from the best families." "And know how to swim?" Victoria asked suddenly. Does Aunt Catherine know how to swim? Catherine faltered for a moment. Of course, that is, I have a club membership. And how to save someone, the little girl pressed. If they're drowning, silence. Maya continued icing the cookies, but she was listening to every word. Gregory looked at his daughter with a new understanding. Victoria, darling. Catherine tried to regain control. Saving people is a job for specialists, for trained lifeguards. But there were no specialists here, Luke said quietly. There was only Maya, and she taught me that sometimes you have to act, even when you're scared. The second blow was delivered by an 8-year-old with logic so simple it was irrefutable. But this was only the start of the real fight. Catherine left that afternoon but returned the very next day. This time she had a plan. She brought a folder filled with brochures for boarding schools in Switzerland. The best education in Europe, she pitched to Gregory. Luke and Victoria will be among children from the most important families. It's an investment in their future. Boarding school? Gregory frowned. But they've only just started to open up again after Isabella's death. That's precisely why, Catherine interrupted. They need a change of scenery, fresh air, and you need time to rebuild your life. She gave him a pointed look. With someone who truly understands you. Maya, dusting in the next room, felt her stomach clench. Boarding schools meant separation. The children, who had just started laughing out loud again, would be sent away to be alone once more. That evening, after Catherine had left, Luke came into the kitchen. Maya, are we really going to that school? There was such helplessness in his voice that her heart ached. I don't know, sweetie. That's your dad's decision. But you'll stay, right? If he sends us away. Maya knelt in front of him. I won't let you go without a fight. I promise. But what if Dad lets Aunt Catherine decide for us? Maya didn't answer right away. She looked at the photo of Isabella on the counter, at the gingerbread cookies waiting for tomorrow's breakfast, at the small, happy chaos that had become a home. Then we'll find a way to remind your dad who you really are. Part 3. For the next week, Catherine conducted a subtle campaign of attrition. She came by daily, always with a pretext, sorting out paperwork for the children, advising on a new nanny, checking on how the house was managing without professional supervision. The first morning she found Maya at the table with Victoria, who was practicing her letters. Oh, how lovely, Catherine smiled. But are you sure that's the correct way to hold a pen, Victoria? She took the small hand and adjusted the grip. See? This way, you won't tire your wrist. Maya watched in silence. The correction was technically right, but the delivery, so automatic, so confident, made Victoria instantly shrink. I'm sorry, Auntie, the girl whispered. Nothing to be sorry for, darling. Just practice the way I showed you. When Catherine moved into the living room, Victoria looked at Maya with wide eyes. Was I writing wrong before? You were writing like a 5-year-old who's learning, Maya answered calmly, which is exactly right. But Auntie said, your auntie knows a lot about how grown-ups should write. You're a kid, and you get to write like a kid. Victoria let out a sigh of relief and went back to her wobbly letters. Maya felt the first real warning bell. Catherine had a talent for creating flaws where none existed. That afternoon, Luke came home from school looking dejected. Aunt Catherine talked to my principal, he said, dropping his backpack on the floor. She asked about my grades, about whether I was keeping up with the curriculum. And what did the principal say? That I'm a good student. But Auntie kept asking about how I've been behaving since Mom died. If I'm aggressive, if I'm having problems. Maya put down the carrot she was chopping. And how does that make you feel? Like someone is checking to see if I'm broken, the boy's voice trembled, like she's looking for proof that something's wrong with me. Maya sat down across from him. Listen to me. After someone important dies, it's normal to feel sad, or angry, or confused sometimes. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means your heart remembers. But maybe she's right. Maybe I need someone better. Luke, Maya touched his hand. Do you feel better when you talk to someone who looks for what's wrong with you, or someone who looks for what's right with you? The boy thought for a moment. The second one. Then that's your answer. But Catherine was persistent. The next day she showed up with coincidental job offers for Maya. I was thinking of you, dear, she said, unbuttoning her coat. I have friends who are looking for household help. Much better pay in smaller homes. A quieter job. Maya thanked her politely, but she wasn't a fool. She saw the play. That's very kind of you, Miss Miller, but I'm happy here. Really? Catherine raised an eyebrow. Because it seems to me that Gregory needs space to put his life back together with someone from his own world. It was the first direct shot. Maya felt her stomach twist, but she answered calmly. Mr. Thompson can make his own decisions about his life. I'm here for the children. Of course, Catherine smiled sweetly. But don't you think the children deserve more than a temporary arrangement? The word temporary sounded like a verdict. Maya didn't reply, but she filed the moment away. It was a declaration of war. That evening, Gregory was talking with the children in the living room. Maya was cleaning a nearby hallway, but she could hear every word. Aunt Catherine is right about one thing, he was saying. You need stability. Maybe we should think about those schools. I don't want to, Victoria said firmly. I want to be here, with Maya and with you. I don't want to go either, Luke added. There won't be any dinosaur toast there, and there won't be anyone who knows how to make the nightmares go away. Nightmares? Gregory sounded concerned. You're still having them? Sometimes. About Mum. But Maya showed me how to breathe when I wake up, and she stays until I fall back asleep. Gregory was silent for a long time. Maya could hear his heavy breathing. Maybe let's just give it some more time to see how things go. The next day, Catherine returned with a new strategy. This time, she brought a child psychologist with her. This is Dr. Evans, she announced. I wanted her to assess whether the children are coping with their trauma and whether the current care arrangement is appropriate. Dr. Evans was a woman in her 50s, with kind eyes behind her glasses and a notepad at the ready. She spoke with the children in the living room, asking questions about school, sleep, and their fears. Maya was asked to remain in the house, so the psychologist could observe the family's natural dynamics. Luke, Dr. Evans said, tell me about the people who take care of you. Dad is good, but he's very tired sometimes. Dorothy cooks and keeps things tidy. And Maya, the boy hesitated, glancing at Catherine. Maya teaches us things that help. What kind of things? How to breathe when you're sad. How to make food that tastes like a hug. How not to be afraid when something is scary. Dr. Evans took notes. And does this Maya ever overstep her bounds? Does she do things a parent should be doing? Luke frowned. I don't understand. For example, Catherine interjected smoothly, does she make important decisions about your lives? Does she tell you what to do? No, Luke answered confidently. She asks us how we feel, and she helps us find the answers. Victoria had been sitting quietly, but she suddenly stood up and walked over to a doll lying on the couch. She picked it up and started talking to it, as if no one else was in the room. Don't be scared, Dolly. The psychologist lady isn't scary. She's just checking to see if someone really loves us, and Maya loves us, so don't you be scared. Dr. Evans glanced at Catherine, who suddenly looked flustered. Does she often talk to her doll like that? She asked. Ever since Mom died, Luke answered. Maya said that sometimes it's easier to tell something hard to someone who won't worry with you. That's a sound approach, Dr. Evans admitted, scribbling in her notepad. After the interview, Catherine walked the psychologist to the door. Well? She asked impatiently. Miss Miller, Dr. Evans closed her notepad firmly. The children are emotionally healthy. They have a secure attachment to their father and to their caregiver. They are showing natural grief responses, but they are coping with the help of effective strategies. I see no basis for changing their environment. But don't you think the caregiver's lower level of education, a person's level of empathy and practical skill, is often more important than a degree, doctors? Evans interrupted. That young woman has a powerful nurturing instinct, and the children trust her implicitly. Those are the fundamentals. Catherine was left alone with her frustration. Her first plan had backfired, but a woman who had built an art gallery from nothing wasn't about to give up after one setback. Part 4. Catherine waited a week, plotting her next move. When she returned, she was no longer the caring friend, but a woman on a mission. She brought with her Anna Price, the headmistress of a private school attended by the children of ambassadors and CEOs. Gregory, I want you to meet the person who can change Luke and Victoria's future, she announced, ushering in an elegant woman in a tailored suit. Anna runs the best elementary school in the tri-state area. They have openings for next year. Gregory greeted her politely, but Maya noticed the tension in his jaw. Please have a seat. Tell us about the school. Anna Price spoke for half an hour about the bilingual program, the small class sizes, the preparation for top-tier high schools. It sounded impressive, but when she mentioned the tuition, $50,000 a year per child, Gregory let out a soft whistle. I know it's an expense, Catherine conceded, but think of it as an investment. The children will be networking with peers from the world you move in. They won't be mixing levels. Mixing levels. Maya processed the phrase as she stood in the doorway with a tray of tea. Whatever it meant, it was aimed directly at her. And what about the current care situation? Anna asked, her eyes on Maya. The school works with professional nanny agencies. We have vetted references. Maya is more than a nanny, Gregory said quietly. Catherine cut him off gently. Of course she's wonderful. But don't you think that at such a difficult time, the children need someone with a background in education? Someone who understands developmental psychology? The first blow of this round was precise. Maya didn't have degrees. She had heart, instinct, and courage. But was that enough against arguments of professionalism? That evening, after the guests had left, Gregory was alone with Maya in the kitchen. The children were upstairs doing homework. "What do you think?" he asked, leaning against the counter. "About the school or the nanny?" Maya replied, not pausing in her washing of the dishes. "About all of it." Maya put down the sponge and turned to face him. For the first time in months, they held each other's gaze for more than a fleeting moment. "I think the best school is one the children want to go to, and the best care is the kind that makes them feel safe." "And where do you feel safe?" The question hung between them like a bridge neither dared to cross. Maya felt a blush creep up her cheeks. "Here," she answered honestly, "but this isn't about me. Maybe it's a little bit about you," Gregory said softly. Just then, Victoria ran into the kitchen in her pajamas. "Daddy!" She threw herself into his arms. "I had a nightmare that Aunt Catherine took us to that school, and you forgot what I looked like." Gregory held his daughter tight. "I could never forget what you look like. But you did in the dream, and Maya wasn't there to remind me that breathing helps." Maya automatically knelt beside the little girl. "Do you want to go practice our breathing?" Victoria nodded. As they were leaving, Maya felt Gregory's eyes on her back, a warm, thoughtful gaze. But the next day, the situation grew more complicated. Catherine brought a concrete offer, a move to a smaller apartment in the city, where the children would have their own rooms and she could help out more often. "The house is too big for the three of you," she argued, "and I could stay on weekends, help with the children, run the household." "And Maya?" asked Luke, who had been listening from the stairs. "Maya will find a wonderful job somewhere else," Catherine answered smoothly. "Sometimes people have to part ways, so everyone can grow. But I don't want to grow without Maya," Victoria protested. "Darling, adult decisions aren't a game. Trust your auntie and your dad." That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She sat in the dark kitchen looking at Isabella's photograph. What would the children's real mother say? What would she do? Then she heard footsteps on the stairs. It was Gregory, in a bathrobe, his hair tousled. "You're awake?" he asked. "Thinking," she replied. "About tomorrow's dinner, the laundry, about—" She trailed off. "About Catherine," Maya nodded. "She genuinely wants what's best for you and the children. And you." "I do too." "Then why does it feel like I have to choose?" Maya put down her mug of tea. "Because maybe you do. Maybe she's right. Maybe I am just a temporary solution." Gregory moved closer. "Maya, look at me." When she lifted her eyes, he saw the tears she was trying to hide. "Since you've been here, my children have started laughing again. I've started coming home because I know it's a home, not a building, a home. And that isn't temporary. But maybe the children need someone better. Better than someone who risked her life to save Victoria. Better than someone who knows how to soothe Luke's nightmares. Better than someone who has made this house smell like cake again, instead of just cleaning supplies." Maya was silent, but her heart was pounding. "Maya," Gregory continued, his voice low, "I don't know what this is between us, but I know that when I see you with my children, I feel whole for the first time since Isabella died." He'd said it. He had finally said it. Maya let out a shaky breath. "Gregory, I feel something too, but I'm scared. I'm scared that your world isn't my world, that people like Catherine will always see me as a problem to be solved. What if we solve those problems together?" Before Maya could answer, Luke ran down into the kitchen. "Dad, we can't sleep. Victoria's crying because she dreamed that we're packing our suitcases tomorrow." Gregory looked at Maya. They understood without words that this conversation would have to wait. Together, they went upstairs to comfort the children. But Catherine wasn't sleeping that night. She stood at the window of her Soho apartment, planning her final move. If subtlety wasn't working, it was time for decisive action. The next morning, Maya found an envelope in her bag. Inside was a grainy tabloid photograph of a woman who looked vaguely like her, leaving an exclusive club with a well-known politician. On the back, a handwritten note. "Photos like this can be very interesting to certain people. You should reconsider that job offer I mentioned. CM." Maya felt a cold sweat prickle her skin. The photo wasn't of her, but in the murky world of tabloids, it could easily be spun that way. The threat was clear. Just then, Luke walked into the kitchen. "Maya, what's that letter?" She quickly hid the envelope. "Nothing important, sweetie. You look like you've seen a ghost." Maya knelt in front of him. "Luke, if I ever had to leave here, and it wasn't because I wanted to, I need you to remember that." "But you're not leaving," he said firmly. "You promised. Sometimes adult problems are complicated. Then we'll solve them." His voice was remarkably certain for an 8-year-old. Me, you, and Dad, and Victoria will help too, just like with the gingerbread cookies. In that moment, Maya knew she couldn't give up without a fight. The children deserved that much. But this was only the beginning of her hardest trial. Part 5. That evening, when Catherine was gone, a strange quiet settled over the house. Maya was making dinner, but her mind was circling around the words folk wisdom. Was she really not enough for these children, who deserved a real education? Maya, Luke came into the kitchen. Aunt Catherine talked to us while you were out. Maya put down her knife. About what? About the new school. She said she already put our names on the list. And that, the boy hesitated, that you would be happy because you could finally get a normal job. A normal job? She said living with us isn't a real job because real ladies don't live with the people they work for. Maya felt her heart contract. And what do you think? I think I don't understand the difference between a real lady and a real mom. Just then, Gregory walked into the kitchen. He looked tired and preoccupied. What's for dinner? Spaghetti, Maya replied. Luke is helping. Dad, the boy spoke up. Aunt Catherine said Maya would be happy if she found a normal job. Gregory stopped in his tracks. When did she say this? Today. And that the new school is a good idea because there will be real moms there, not... Luke glanced at Maya. Not ladies who are pretending to be moms. I'm not pretending, Maya said quietly. I know, Luke answered. But she said you were. Gregory sat down heavily in a chair. Does Catherine have these conversations with you when I'm not here? Yes. She said they were secrets for big kids. Maya could see the anger rising in Gregory's eyes. Secrets? She also said, Luke continued, that if you marry her instead of Maya, we'll have a real family. Instead of Maya? Gregory looked at him sharply. Who said anything about marrying Maya? No one. But Victoria said she wished you would, and Aunt Catherine got really mad. Then something happened that changed everything. Victoria ran into the kitchen, sobbing. Daddy! Maya! She launched herself between them. I checked my closet, and my bunny is gone. What bunny? Gregory asked. The one from Mummy, the pink one with one ear. Victoria was hysterical. Mummy gave him to me before she died and said he would always watch over me. Maya and Gregory exchanged a look. That bunny was Victoria's most precious possession. She had slept with it every single night for 8 months. Where did you see it last? Maya asked gently. I put him on my bed this morning, and now he's gone. For the next hour, they searched the entire house. Closets, beds, under furniture, nothing. Victoria's crying grew more desperate. He's lost and he'll be all alone. He's not lost, Luke said firmly. Someone hid him. Who would hide a stuffed bunny? Gregory asked. Someone who wants Victoria to be sad. Maya felt a suspicion as cold and sharp as a needle. Luke, who was in the house today when you were gone? Aunt Catherine. She was talking to Dorothy. And, wait, the boy frowned. I saw her coming out of Victoria's room. Maybe she was just checking to see if everything was okay, Gregory said, but his voice lacked conviction. Let's ask Dorothy, Maya suggested. They found Dorothy in the laundry room, pale, her eyes red from crying. Dorothy, what's wrong? Gregory asked. I can't, the woman stammered. She told me to keep quiet, but it's not right. Who told you to keep quiet? Miss Catherine. Dorothy wiped her nose with the back of her hand. She said if I told the truth she'd find a way to get me fired, that she has friends who could make sure I never find work again. Adrenaline flooded Maya's veins. Dorothy, what truth are you talking about? The bunny. The housekeeper wrung her hands. Miss Catherine took it from Victoria's room. She said it was therapeutic, that a child needs to learn to cope without transitional objects in order to grow up. Where is it? Gregory growled. In her car, in the glove compartment. She said she would give it back in a week. After Victoria had passed through the grief phase, Maya's face burned with fury. She stole a dying mother's gift from a 5-year-old to cure her of grief. She said it was psychology. And that, Dorothy looked at Maya, that you wouldn't understand things like that because you don't have an education. Gregory stormed out of the laundry room. Kids, he called out, get your coats. We're going to get the bunny. 5 minutes later, the whole family was sitting in the car outside Catherine's Soho apartment building. Gregory buzzed her intercom. Open up. We need to talk. Gregory, at this hour? Catherine's voice was surprised. Give me Victoria's bunny. Now. Silence on the intercom. I don't know what you're talking about, Catherine. Gregory's voice was as cold as ice. Either you come down here with the bunny, or I will kick down your door. 10 minutes later, Catherine came downstairs, the pink bunny in her hand. She looked shaken, but she was still trying to play her part. Gregory, can we discuss this like adults? She asked, ignoring Maya and the children in the car. Give the bunny to my daughter and explain to me why you stole it. It wasn't theft. she defended herself. It was a therapeutic intervention. Victoria was overly attached. To the only thing she has left from her dying mother? Gregory's voice trembled with barely contained rage. To the one thing that helps her fall asleep at night? Sometimes you have to be tough to help people. Get out of my life, he interrupted, and I never want to see you near my children again. Catherine took a step back. Gregory, you're making a mistake. This girl, he pointed at Maya, would never hurt a child in the name of some sick, twisted therapy, and that's exactly what you just did. He passed the bunny to Victoria through the car window. The little girl clutched it to her chest and finally stopped crying. I'm not done with you, Catherine hissed as he got back in the car. Not with all of you. The drive home was quiet. Luke held Victoria's hand as she hugged the bunny. Maya stared out the window, trying to process what had just happened. Maya, Gregory finally said, can you stay home with me and the kids tomorrow? I feel like we all need to talk. Together. About what? About who we are to each other, and who we want to be. Maya nodded. I'll be here. But neither of them could have anticipated what Catherine was planning for her end game. Part 6. The next morning, Maya was awakened by a call from Gregory on his cell. Maya, don't leave the house with the children. Catherine, she's done something unpredictable. What? She published an article about me online. With your picture. She claims you're a grifter who preys on grieving families. That you, he paused, that you intentionally caused the fire at my last house to make yourself indispensable. Maya sat down hard on the bed. What? It's all fabricated, but people are reading it. Reporters are calling the office. I don't want anyone harassing you on the street. Maya felt her world tilting. Gregory, maybe it would be better if I left, so I don't destroy your reputation. Don't you dare, he said firmly. Catherine just made the mistake that will destroy her. What mistake? Slander. I have a lawyer who specializes in this. By this evening, that article will be gone, and she'll be facing a lawsuit. After they hung up, Maya went to check on the children. Luke was already awake, sitting at the computer in his room. Maya, someone wrote ugly things about you on the internet, he said, without beating around the bush. You read it? Yes. And they're lies. How do you know? Because I know you. Luke walked over and gave her a fierce hug. Lies always sound like lies when you know the truth. Victoria ran into the room in her pajamas. What are we talking about? About how sometimes people lie about good people, Luke explained. Why? Because they're jealous. Maya knelt between her two small defenders. I want you to know one thing. Whatever you hear about me, at school or anywhere else, remember that the most important thing is what you know about me from our life together. And what do we know? Victoria asked. That you're brave, said Luke. That you make the best pancakes, and that you saved Victoria, and that your hugs help with nightmares, the little girl added. And that you never yell, you just explain things, Luke finished. Maya felt her heart swell with love. That's more than enough. By the afternoon, the situation had been resolved. Gregory came home with the news that the article had been taken down, and Catherine was facing a hefty fine and a public retraction. The lawyer had been swift and effective. There's one more thing, he said, sitting down with the whole family at the kitchen table. Monica called again. She admitted that Catherine offered her more money to stick with the lie. And what did she do? Maya asked. She refused. She said she has a son to feed, but not by lying about other people's children. Luke nodded in approval. So she's not a bad person after all. No, she's not, Gregory agreed. She was desperate. There's a difference. Victoria raised her hand. Can we be a normal family now? What's a normal family? Maya asked. One where nobody is trying to steal anyone or lie about anyone. They all laughed. It was the first genuine, relieved laughter in a week. That evening, after the children were asleep, Maya and Gregory sat in the living room by the fire. For the first time in months, they had a moment to themselves. I'm sorry for all of this, Gregory said. For Catherine, for the chaos, for putting you in the line of fire. Don't be sorry. Maya touched his hand. It wasn't your fault, but I could have protected you better. You did protect me, and the children did too. You showed me that I'm part of this family, not just an employee. Gregory moved closer. Maya, I want to ask you something, and I want an honest answer. Go on. Can you imagine a life with me? For real? With all the difficulties, with my work schedule, with the complications that come with a wealthy man? Maya thought for a moment. Can you imagine a life with a girl from Red Hook who's afraid of deep water and doesn't know how to talk to ambassadors? I can teach you how to talk to ambassadors, Gregory smiled, and you can teach me not to be afraid of real intimacy. That seems like a fair trade. It's the foundation of a good marriage. The word marriage hung in the air between them. Maya felt a flush rise to her cheeks. Gregory, too soon? Maybe let's just see if we can be a couple first. Okay. He kissed her forehead. But just so you know, I've already made up my mind. 6 months later, the house in Greenwich looked different. Maya had completed her childcare and advanced first aid courses. Gregory had cut back on his business travel. The children were thriving. Luke was playing the piano with newfound passion, and Victoria had started swimming lessons, with Maya in the shallow end, slowly conquering her own fear. Catherine tried a few more times to make contact through mutual acquaintances, but Gregory was immovable. Someone who plays games with children's lives doesn't get a second chance, he'd say. That October, as the first dusting of snow covered the garden, Gregory organized a small dinner. Just the family, Dorothy, and a surprise. He had invited Monica and her son. "I want the children to see that people can fix their mistakes," he explained. Monica brought a homemade pie and a modest gift for Luke and Victoria. "Thank you for helping me find a job," she said to Gregory. "And I'm so sorry for that lie." "Why did you do it?" Victoria asked directly. "Because I was foolish and desperate. But I learned that you should never lie for money." Luke nodded. "It's good that you learned that." During that dinner, Maya felt the last of the tension leave her shoulders. This was her family. Not perfect, but real. Before bed, Victoria came to her with the bunny. "Maya, is Aunt Catherine going to try to split us up anymore?" "No, sweetie." "Good." The little girl hugged her tightly. "Because I want you to be my other mommy forever, and I want to be her forever." A year later, on the anniversary of Victoria's rescue, Gregory asked Maya to marry him. Not in a fancy restaurant, not with a grand gesture, just at the kitchen table, while Luke was doing his homework and Victoria was painting. "Maya, will you stay with us officially?" he asked, holding out a simple, elegant ring. "Forever?" "Forever? Then yes," she replied. "I would love that." The wedding was small in the garden, with carrot cake, of course, and their closest friends and family. Dorothy brought flowers and started crying halfway through the ceremony, then laughed at herself. "I promised I wouldn't do this." As they exchanged rings, Victoria threw petals and Luke played the piano. 3 years later, Maya was pregnant with their first child together. She was still sometimes afraid of deep water, but now she swam with Victoria in the shallow end of the pool. Gregory still had his workaholic habits, his occasional frustration with schedules, but he apologized sincerely without excuses. Luke was 10 and playing Chopin. Victoria had learned to read and every night read aloud to Maya, who would always interrupt to ask, "And what do you think that character was feeling? Was everything perfect?" No. They sometimes argued about money. Maya sometimes felt out of place at his corporate events, and Gregory sometimes didn't understand why they had to visit her mother in Brooklyn every other weekend. But they had learned to talk about the hard things and to forgive each other's small failings. The Greenwich mansion had become a place where they cooked with the kids every Saturday, where the piano played on Wednesdays, where Victoria's bunny had a permanent spot on the sofa, and where a photo of Isabella stood on the mantelpiece, not as a reminder of sadness but as a blessing for the new family that had been built. One winter evening, after Maya had tucked both children into bed, she found a note from Luke on the kitchen table. "Maya, I'm glad you weren't invisible. Mommy Isabella told me in a dream that she likes you." "Luke," she showed the note to Gregory. "Isn't that the sweetest thing?" she asked. "It's the truest thing," he answered, kissing her temple, "and it's why our life is beautiful." Maya looked out the window at the snow blanketing the garden, at the lights of New York City in the distance, at the reflection of her family in the glass. "Yes," she agreed quietly, "it is beautiful." Dear listeners, we hope Maya's story has touched your hearts. This tale shows that true love isn't born from perfection, but from everyday care, courage, and the ability to forgive. Maya taught us that you don't need a degree to have a wise heart, and Gregory showed that a true man knows how to value a woman who puts the well-being of children above all else. If you want to continue experiencing stories of quiet heroism, second chances, and family love, please subscribe to our channel, leave a like, and share in the comments. Which part of this story moved you the most? Was it the moment Maya overcame her fear of water to save Victoria, or the instant when the children stood up to defend her? Or perhaps it was when she understood that true love sometimes means allowing the other person to be responsible for their own mistakes. Every day we tell stories about women and men who find happiness against the odds, about children who teach adults true wisdom, and about how the most beautiful families are those built on a foundation of understanding and daily care. We look forward to your comments and to hearing your own stories of second chances.